You know, it's so crazy because with all the Howard Becks and the Bill Simmons and the shows and the podcasts, that we spend the entire year discussing something that's going to happen 6 months from now.
I know, right?
8 months from now, me included. And I feel like we it overshadows watching the games, you know, and enjoying the games. And it, you know, we you know, it's so discussed. It's like, you know, like, it's funny. It hasn't been this as much this year, but like last year, I was so just like, who cares about the MVP of the season in November? Who gives a fuck? Who cares? Why is this a year-long campaign? This is crazy.
No, it's bizarre. It's bizarre, and we're all guilty of it.
Who gives a shit about the regular season MVP of the NBA? Do you think Russell Westbrook is sitting at home polishing his regular season MVP? Do you think Dirk Nowitzki is sitting at home polishing his regular season MVP that he collected after his team was knocked out of the playoffs?
That was brutal.
James Harden? This award is the most overhyped, overdiscussed thing. And it's the same thing. You know, I was thinking, it's like, you know, we sit here and talk about Kevin Durant and Draymond for 4 days. Last week, for 2 days, it was LeBron James is wearing a headband. The week before that, it was, did Rondo spit? Did he not spit? Is CP3 really an asshole, or is he not really an asshole? And I'm like, what about fucking Middleton? What about Devin Booker? Well, what about fucking Donovan Mitchell? What about you know, these rookies? What about Sacramento? What about why we all started with this in the first place, which is the basketball games? You know, we get these access to these fucking clips and all this shit, and I'm like, fuck this. I want to watch a game, and I'm not even going to flip channels. I'm going to pick a game, and I'm going to watch. If it's a shit game, I'll change it. But like, I got into this flip, and I'm like, I'm not watching basketball.
No, it's killing. Like, just as Twitter and the internet has killed our attention span, League Pass has, because I do that same thing. I'm sitting there watching, and I can't lock in on a game because then I'll go and I was like, oh, this other one's going down to the wire. Now I'm flipping
catch
around.
it later.
Like,
Or you know what's cool? I missed it.
Yeah.
I'll watch the highlights.
Yeah.
You know, this fantasy football, fantasy aspect, and I'm guilty of it too. But like this season for the NBA, I'm like, let me just watch a Laker game. Let me not watch the highlights. Let me not listen to the, oh, Luke said this and this shit. And, oh, and what did LeBron wear? There was people, grown men, all up in arms that he's wearing a headband. He's not wearing it. I'm like, this is not what I like about basketball. I could be guilty of it too. I could talk shit about it till the cows come up. But I'm like, this is not what I'm excited about. I'm excited about that kid Colin Sexton playing great last night. I watched Cleveland versus the Hornets, and I'm like, this fucking kid's good. Yeah. Like, he is good. You know, the Kemba Walker, who's like been in the league 17 years now. I'm watching him and I'm like, look at this fucking guy. This guy's a fucking almost, he's like a little person, and he's doing this shit. You know, so I'm trying to focus on watching the games were what originally I fell in love with, as opposed to, you know, this highlight thing on Instagram. And I can catch all that later, but when the games are going, I'll watch the game. Yeah. I'm trying my best to do that because we get so caught up in these other things.
We do. It's the NBA world in 2018. We've turned it all into a soap opera. Speaking of which, let's talk about your soap opera with the Knicks.
Yes.
You're obviously still rooting for them, and you would love to see KD here, and they're still your team. However, there is this question of whether or not you are banned from the Garden. So your quote in your book that got this all going, I'll read out of the New York Post's account of it. This is you writing. We all want to go up to Dolan and say, what the fuck have you done? You've taken the New York Knicks and turned it into a fucking joke since you got this building and team handed you by your father and have ruined it. And then you call him some names. And do yourself a favor and shave that funky ass beard. You look ridiculous.
Here's the thing so first of all, I'm not banned from the Garden.
All right, so let's clarify.
I'm not officially banned from the Garden. That's never happened. That I don't know how that started, that it was banned. I said first that I was banning myself after the Oakley thing. Yeah. I said I will not go into the Garden until Charles Oakley is allowed in the Garden. At that point, I had never even met Charles Oakley. I wound up meeting him soon after at the Big Three. But because of all the things that he represented to the fans, and this being the culmination of just one frustrating incident after another. I was like, I'm done. And then I was like, it's not like, like for some people were like, oh yeah, we were with the Rapaport. And I was like saying to myself, it's not like I'm missing out. Now, this is before Fizdale got there, but it's not like I was missing out on going to the Knicks games, because it's like, what am I going to see? I'd rather go see the third stringers in a fucking off-Broadway play than watch this shit. That being said, what has been taken away from me is the celebrity tickets. Now, Celebrity Row, I have been a part of that, and I am humbled and completely grateful about getting those courtside tickets that the Garden and the Knicks give away. They will not give me those tickets until I don't know when. I did actually go to Madison Square Garden to watch UFC 230, so I have been back in the Garden. There is no official ban. And if I want to go to a Knicks game, if I get tickets, I'll go to a Knicks game. Now, I fucking shelled out close to $1,600 the other day to send my brother and his niece, well, my niece, very good seats to see the Knicks lose to the Aaron Gordon-less Orlando Magic. And I'm saying to myself, now I sent that money. I wanted my brother to have that experience of sitting very close and my niece to have it. And I was like, who the fuck would spend this kind of money to watch this shit? Who would watch this shit? So that's where we are with the Knicks. Again, I fuck with Fizdale. I believe in Fizdale. I love these young kids. I love Trier. Well, what we've seen of Knox, I believe him. The second pick that we picked this year,
Mitchell Robinson.
Him, I think, is good. And I believe the sun is on its way. The sunlight, because of these elements. That being said, I ain't begging. I ain't pleading. And you know the thing about Dolan? When the Knicks win a championship, and we will win a championship, I believe David Fizdale will bring us a championship in the next 5 years. When that statue is handed to James Dolan, and in my imaginary world, it's handed to James Dolan in Madison Square Garden, James Dolan will still be booed. The New York Knicks fans, after we win that championship, he'll be fucking booed. We don't relate to him, and we don't have to have every owner's not going to be like Mark Cuban or some of these other colorful owners that could just be owners. But we don't relate to him, and we don't like him. So again, you could just be the owner, the rich guy who runs a team, but he's immersed himself as part of this thing, and you ain't us. Yeah. You ain't the fans. You ain't New York Knicks fan. And there's been so much shit that we dealt with. So when we do raise that fucking Larry O'Brien trophy, Dolan, be prepared to be fucking booed in the building that your father gave you. Now, I might get banned after saying that, but that's the reality.
That would be a fascinating
scene. He sits there on the fucking end of the court, like he has to go take a shit. And he's sitting there like he's got like he's got a burp, and he like, whether we're winning or losing, he's like, it's like, do you even like basketball? What is this? We don't like, you're in a blues band? You are in a, what the fuck are you, what are you singing the blues about? Listen, I know Oakley is not a choir boy, but that whole thing was just unacceptable.
Well, listen, you obviously have expressed your opinion on this in much more emphatic and colorful ways than a lot of others have and Knicks fans have. But like your general viewpoint of this, of Dolan and his role, and of wishing that somebody else owned this team, is not exactly unique, right? Like this is almost a universal thing among Knicks fans.
That's why he'll be booed when Fizdale gets us the championship.
It's absolutely that is the prevailing opinion, I think, of Knicks fans. And every time that's brought to Dolan's attention via email, via somebody saying something to him on the street, he lashes back out to them and calls them an alcoholic. So
kiss my fucking ass, you call him an alcoholic. So, walk the streets. If James Dolan walked the streets,
there was one incident. I'm referring to one incident in particular. So somebody had seen him about to get into his limo or something outside the Garden and said something like, "Hey, Dolan, sell the team," and like Dolan like snapped at him, dropped an F-bomb or something, whatever, and that went like that got coverage.
Is that right?
And then I think he probably referred to that guy as an alcoholic, because every time somebody attacks him, his first reaction is to accuse them of
He's
something.
He's a fucking joke.